They turn for home. Yang again drifts a little as Lane Way comes powerfully to challenge. Lane Way on the outside takes the lead with a furlong left to go and opens up two in a hurry. Respect the Code. Motorious trying to rally between rivals, but Lane Way has kicked well in advance of the rest. And it's all Lane Way. Lane Way by 4 big lengths coming for the wire. Lane Way dominates the Clocker's Corner. Motorious got up for second, then Respect the Code, Yang again, and Nero. They're in the gate. And they're off. Thirsty broke beautifully and takes command at once, clearing off to lead by a length and a half. Chalcoon on the far outside has some early speed, regulation days with the purple cap, along with extra innings and log on to win also in that group. They're followed by Uncle Walt, inside Big Drinker, who's 4 lengths off the lead, and another 5 to Vince's Corner, who trails. Thirsty in command of the 3/8 pole. Still under a nice hold in front, 3/4 of a length to Chalcoon, who now comes after him in second. At the rail, it's extra innings. Regulation Dazed is next. Uncle Walt, Big Drinker outside of them. Another couple of lengths back to Log On to Win, 6 lengths off the lead, trying to gather some momentum. And another 5 back to Vince's Corner. They turn for home, and it's Thirsty a little bit off the rail, has been in charge throughout, turns for home with a 4-length lead. Extra innings at the rail. Between horses, Chalcoon fighting on, Regulation Dazed, and Log On to Win continues to grind away, one from the fence, but this is an absolute blowout. Thirsty gallops by many. Thirsty by almost 9. Second to Regulation Dazed. Then Log On to Win, Chalcoon, and extra innings. The running time, 111.18 seconds. Late pick 4 returns 86.
You've often heard me say that there's no substitute for experience. And think about it for a minute, if you would. If you're going in for surgery, you don't want the doctor to be the very first patient that he ever operates on. Likewise, if you're taking a plane, you don't want the pilot to be the very first pilot to fly cross country. Well, our seminar guest today has tons of experience. To give you an idea, he's got over 6 decades of being a jockey agent. He's also represented, unbelievably, in his career, 9 Hall of Fame jockeys. It's our pleasure to introduce him today. He's my friend and special guest for the seminar. His name, Vince DeGregory. Vince, happy Friday. Welcome to the seminar.
Thank you very much, Tom. I am very excited when you called me about being your guest. And we've been friends a long time, and I listen to you all the time, and you do a fabulous job. And I said, well, I'll be happy to do the show with you.
Well, thanks for the kind words, Vince. And it's a pleasure to have you on as well, because you're a living legend and a national treasure. You're 90 years young, and you're obviously very, very still mentally sharp and physically strong. So it's great to have you here in the studio. We're obviously going to talk about handicapping way down the road.
Okay.
But let's talk about where it all began. You grew up 10 miles away from Saratoga Springs. You grew up in a predominant Italian-American neighborhood. What was your first introduction to the racetrack? Did your dad take you there? Did your friends take you there? What was your first experience at the racetrack?
Well, my dad never took me to the track until later on, but it so happened I was a pretty good baseball player in those days.
I heard that.
And I was about 16 years old, and the Dodgers were scouting me. And the next thing, it was in the New York Daily News, on Gene Ward column about me. And I received a phone call from Ralph Theroux. I didn't know who Ralph Theroux was. And then he explained to me that he was the agent for Billy Bolin, and that there's a racetrack summer league, and wanted to know if I would play in the summer league. I said, yeah, I don't have a job in the summer. I'd be glad to play ball. So that's how I got on the racetrack. We played and we won the title. But the person running the tournament was a competitor of mine. He coached St. Peter's High School, and I went to Saratoga Springs High School. So the next year, Ralph Theroux called me again. I was 17 at the time, and he said, would you play with us this summer? I said, sure. So when I got over there, Mr. O'Brien said, you can't play. You're a ringer. You're not licensed on the racetrack. Therefore, you can't play in the tournament. So Ralph said, well, we'll get you a job. So I became a hot walker for Popeye Hotcher, who was a jumping jockey. And I knew him as a friend. So that's my first job, was a hot walker.
Now, you also served in the service, and lore has it that your roommate in the service was none other than Bob Uecker. Is that really a true story, Vince?
Yeah, I was in the Army. 1954, I went in 1955. I was transferred from Fort Lee, Virginia to Fort Belvoir, which is engineers. And as it turned out, they had me there be a teacher. I don't know what the hell I was doing. Sent me to charm school.
Did the Army have a baseball team? Could you play baseball
So
in the
now,
Army?
now I'm in the rec hall, and the guy said to me, can you play basketball? I said, yeah. I said, they having tryouts. Why don't you see if you can make the team? You travel all over the country. I was smoking at that time. I said, yeah, I'll go over. So there was 100 people, and I broke my fannies. To cut a long story short, Tom, I made the team. Who was on the team was an All-American from Duke University. He eventually became the captain of the Pittsburgh Pirates, was Dick Rote. And so now, when the basketball season was over, we're playing baseball. Who's on the team with me? Bob Uecker. So we just got through baseball, and the baseball field is here, and next to it is the basketball arena. So there's a Coke machine in the middle, old-fashioned Coke bottle with the wooden racks. And I'm drinking a Coke, and Dick Rote saying, come on, hurry up, we're going to play basketball. You let me finish this Coke? Hurry up. So I'm drinking, I go down like this. I come up and the blood is shooting every which way. There was a broken bottle.
Wow.
Instead of tipping it down into the bucket, it left it up. And that thing went through my hand over here. Blood is going everywhere. Who come running was Bob Uecker. He got wrapped about 8-10 towels and took me to the hospital. And that was the end of my baseball career. See, there's a scar here to here, went right into the center. So I was out of action. But Bob Uecker and I became great friends.
Before your injury, who was a better baseball player, you or Bob Uecker? He made the pros and obviously turned out to be a legendary
broadcaster. I had a
broadcaster.
chance to make it, but I always recognized somebody made it, so he had to be better than me because I didn't get the opportunity to be there.
Speaking about making it, lore also has that you rubbed shoulders with Frank Sinatra once or twice, particularly here in Southern California. Can you give us a quick story?
I played trumpet with Frank Sinatra. Panzer's Lazy Susan was a little nightclub on La Brea in Hollywood.
Here in Los Angeles.
Okay, and who owned it was friends of mine from back east, from Mechanicsville, the Caringi family. And Ernie called me and said, Vince, we have a private party here for Sinatra. Why don't you come down?
You had never met him
I
before.
never met Frank.
Right.
So I went down and I met Frank, and Jilly was his bodyguard. And they said, you play trumpet, huh? I said, yeah. Why don't you go get the horn? So I lived about 10 blocks from there, got my horn, went back and played the horn with Frank. And from that time on, him and I and Jilly became the greatest of friends.
Was he much of a horse player? Did he ever come out to the races, Frank?
He only came out once in a while. His friend was Danny Schwartz, who owned horses, who also lived in Palm Springs where Frank lived. And but he's come to the races in New York once in a while. And he was very good friends of Tommy Lasorda, who was my buddy. I was friends with Tommy for a long time.
We're just getting warmed up here with the stories from legendary jockey agent Vince DeGregory. Besides listening to his stories, which we could do all day, we're also going to find out who he likes on today's 8-race card. But before we do any of that, let's toss the microphone over to track announcer Frank Miramati and get the early changes on the Friday card here at the Great Race Place.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park. The track is fast, the turf is firm, the rail is at 30 feet. Here are the early changes. No changes in the first, start of the early pick 5. There are no changes in the second, beginning of the early pick 4. The rainbow pick 6 will begin today with race 3. $287,000 in the jackpot carryover. In the 4th, scratch 1, Quick Like a Bunny, and 7, Super Renee. There's no high 5 wagering, but the late pick 5 starts with the 4th. Scratch numbers 1 and 7. In the 5th, no changes. Race 6, scratch 1, Freedom Last. 6th race, take out the 1. In the 7th race today, no changes. The golden hour pick 4 begins, and in the 8th, scratch the alsos 10 and 11. Golden hour double starts with race 8. Let's hurry back to Quigley's Corner. His special guest today, the highly entertaining, legendary jock agent, Vince DeGregory.
Welcome back. We're talking horses with legendary jockey agent Vince DeGregory. He's represented 9 Hall of Fame jockeys throughout his illustrious career. We'll get to that in a minute, Vince, but there's also rumor that you were good friends with Eddie O'Carroll when you first started at the racetrack up in Saratoga. Your dad and him had some sort of relationship, and you knew Eddie quite well.
Yeah, I did, only because of the fact that Eddie O'Carroll used to rent a place in the house in the
That your
summer.
dad owned.
And I live right across the street from St. Clement's Church. I had a beautiful 4-bedroom ranch house. And so my dad met Eddie, said, why don't you rent my house? And so he decided to rent the house, and he fell in love with it. So that's how I became friends with Eddie O'Carroll. But every year they would go back to New York, and one day I said to him, you know, Eddie, there's got to be something for me. You guys leaving, I don't know. I miss
You're
miss
stuck
you
in
guys."
upstate New York.
So he said to me, sit down. He said, first of all, you're too big to be a jockey. I said, yeah, I'm 6'2". He said, how about being a trainer? 7 days a week? No, that's not me. No, I like to go out and party now and then. He said, be a jockey agent, but only maybe 10 in the country make all the money. You want to be a jockey agent? Yeah, I said, I'll get you a jockey. He got me Con Erico.
That was your very first jock.
My first jockey. And I struggled, Tom, for 7 years of my life. I worked all of New York, all of Maryland, all of Florida, all of New Jersey, Green Mountain Park, Vermont. I worked them all. And I didn't realize at the time that was my foundation for me, never knowing that my life was going to change eventually. And we're so happy that Kenny No was the racing secretary in Garden State. And he called me in his office and he said, Vince, I've been watching you, the way you handle trainers and owners. You have a chance to make it in this business. Wow, that was a big compliment for me. Because I'm going to show you how to use a winner's book. I never heard of a winner's book, so he showed me that. And it wasn't long after that Carol and Shoemaker in my house, my dad's little restaurant at the bar. We closed the place up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're drinking. And I, like yesterday, Carol said to Shu, who's that black jockey here? And Shu said, oh, that's that new kid who got here from Puerto Rico. His name is Angel Cordero. And he said, he looks like he's got some talent. Shu said, I thought the same thing too. So when he said that, wow, the antenna went up. I said, man, look at these guys talking about
Even
this.
at 2 in the morning.
I didn't know who Angel Cordero
Sure.
was, but I knew Eddie Belmonte, who was brought him here, brought him to New York from Puerto Rico. He introduced me to Angel. So we became friends. But as time went on, Tom, he wouldn't fire his agent. He had an agent that didn't want to be an agent. He was like a tout. So I'm at the Liz's kitchen in the morning, and Hedley Woodhouse was one of the leading jockeys for years, gotten old. He said to me, Vince, you want to be my book? Take my book. In my heart, I don't want him. I want Cordero. So I said, yeah, okay. So I went back to an Angel's house. We used to eat pizza about every day. I said to him, you see, Hedley Woodhouse asked me to take the book. You're going to be sorry. He said, no, I don't fire jockeys. The next morning, I'm in the kitchen with Woodhouse. Here comes flying in was Angel. I changed my mind. So I said, I already told Mr. Woodhouse I'm going to take his book. Woodhouse, old class that he was, he said, Vince, I might retire at the end of this year. Take this young man.
Wow.
And that's how it all started.
Well, let's talk about those 9 Hall of Fame jockeys that you represented. Angel Cordero Jr., who you've been speaking about, is certainly one of them. Also, Victor Espinoza, Chris McCarron, Daryl McHarg, Lafitte Pinkai Jr., Bill Shoemaker, Alex Solis, Jacinto Vasquez, and George Velasquez. Let's focus on Lafitte for a moment, because obviously you plied your trade for a long time on the East Coast, and then you decided to relocate here on the West Coast. And for about a 6 or 7 year run, you and Lafitte led the nation in earnings. You guys were on a phenomenal roll. Correct. What are maybe 1 or 2 remembrances you have of that time period?
Well, it was quite odd that in Saratoga, when I was working on the condition book, my buddy knew Lafitte Pinkai, who was riding in Saratoga, and I didn't know him. She brought him to my home, and he introduced him to my dad, and I'm working. I'm not paying attention to him. Finally, he came in, and Matty said, Vince, say hello to Lafitte Pinkai. And Lafitte was checking me out, how I'm working on charts and doing things. I said, nice meeting you, Lafitte. The next day, Matty said, he wants you to take this book. I said, he's in the top 10, and I got the leading rider. What are you, crazy? I'm not taking his book. That was the beginning.
Sure.
So I finished the meeting out in New York. I come to California, and I rented a place on right near the racetrack. Angel rented a house. We had our cars shipped out. Now we're working horses every day.
Were jockey agents back then allowed to have 2?
No.
They weren't.
You can only have an older rider and an apprentice jockey.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we're working hard every day. And the next thing is, the guy said to me, you ever been to Hollywood? Where's Hollywood? He says, about 25 miles from here. Why don't you take a ride? So I went over, and I'm in all these restaurants, see all these beautiful women. They got discotheques, everything. Man, I said, I'm living in the wrong place. I got to get out of here. I said, I got to move to Hollywood. So cut long story short, opening day here, this mutual men went on strike. Oh my God, that Angel was named on about 8 horses. Holy shit, what's going to happen? Every day we come to work. I go to the club that night. And this went on for about 3 weeks. Angel said to me, you got to go to Florida. They're never going to settle this strike. Florida? I'm not leaving California. I'm staying here. He said, you don't have a jock. I don't care. I got money in the bank. I'm staying. So no sooner than the word was out that Angel left, and I got a phone call from Linda Pinkai, may she rest in peace, Lafitte's wife. She said, can we have dinner in Beverly Hills at Jack Hogan's? Yeah, why not? So I got over there. We're having dinner. She said, Lafitte wants to know if you... Well, Lafitte's right there. He never said anything. He didn't talk a lot of English then. She said, would you take his book? I said, yeah, I'll take his book. She said, but you don't know anybody here. Of course, the Italian in me erupted. I just had a black jock. Black wasn't in. He became the leading rider of America. You asking me, can I make it here in California? If I help that jock, why can't I help your husband?
You had no doubts whatsoever.
Oh, I had no doubts.
Do you represent a jock right now, Vince? Are you representing anybody right now?
I'm with the apprentice jockey, Abdul Al-Sagour.
And how's that going for you? In other words,
I'm gradually getting him in. He's working a lot of horses now, and that's taking time. You have so many riders here with reputations taking up all the good mounts, so we have to gradually climb our way into getting to to how the game goes.
Well, he certainly has made a positive impression, and I'm sure a lot of that is because of you, Vince. So let's take a look at today's 8-race card.
Sure.
I can see you've got the printed daily racing form in front of you. You also got the workout reports from nationalturf.com. Do you handicap on a daily basis? Did you do this specially for me, or
No,
do you actually kind of handicap?
I do it on a daily basis. In fact, I keep working as an agent when I wasn't working, like I did, like when I had Pincay or Cordero. I put the charts in, I put the dates in case anything happens, I'm ready for it. And I love doing it. So as far as this here, yeah, this is, to me, is the greatest thing that I go
The workout
by.
reports.
Well, the person that originally owned it was Bob Sullivan.
Yes.
I helped Bob get started when he had the other handicappers report, which he sold, and then he got in. Him and Jeff Siegel were partners. So when Bobby said, we're going to do this and that, I said, I'll help you. So I did all those things.
And the irony is, Vince, the author of the workout reports that you're looking at and relying upon, Andy Harrington, he'll be my seminar guest tomorrow. But I agree with you. They do a fantastic job. But you certainly know your way around the racing form as well. So let's take a look at race number 1. We're on the turf course. The rails today are at 30 feet. Also, race 1 begins the popular 50-cent early pick 5. This is a starter optional claiming race for 3-year-olds. We've got a field of 6. The morning line favorite in the current betting choice at 6-5 is on the bottom. Polyak, 6-5, as I mentioned on the board. Before we get your thoughts on the race, Flavian right now is in a slump. Obviously, he's struggling to hit the winner's circle. Whenever your jocks will go into a slump, and inevitably it's going to happen to all of us, we're human beings, what type of advice would you give them?
Well, I now that you brought it up, Lafitte used to win 2 or 3 a day every day with me. And all of a sudden, he's 0 for 50. I never used to go down to the jocks room. I run down the elevator, and he's walking, and I start walking with him. I said, what the hell's going on with you? So he kept walking. He didn't know what to say. We got halfway to the jocks room. I said, are you fighting with your wife? He stopped. He said, yeah, leave that at home.
Sure.
You're showing it here in the racetrack.
It's like any other job, right? Leave your personal problems
I said,
at home.
leave that home, Lafitte.
Sure.
And the light went on, boom. He came out of it. Now, I'm not saying that.
Of course.
I'm not saying that in this situation with Pratt. I think what happened, he got a few of those horses beat, and then he started pushing and forgot to do his sit still, relax.
It's like a baseball player, right?
He's a powerful rider.
Yeah.
And he's outstanding. So I think what he did, he got into that slump mentally.
Yeah.
Now everything is second guessing himself.
Yeah.
Instead of letting it go, let his natural talent take over. He'll start winning 3-4 days.
Well, he's certainly a very talented rider, and I'm sure you would love to have his book. Now, having said that, are you for or against the favorite here in race number 1, Vince?
Well, I did the whole card, Tom, and I feel very, very sad about the situation for the public. It's a bad card. We have too many favorites in each race. Maybe one other horse that maybe might give them competition. The bettors can't make any money because if you got 2 out of 6 that look like it's going to be head and head, one's going to be 6-5, the other one's going to be 2-1, 8-5. It's a tough day for the handicappers to make any money.
At least on paper. That's why they run the race. And you've seen upsets happen every now and again. But I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Smaller field sizes certainly hurt betting opportunities because there's just not that many other horses to kind of rely upon.
Correct.
Because there's such a difference in class and ability.
Now on top of that, as I said that, Andy Herring does all the clocking work for this, for nationalturf.com. And I really respect Andy's opinion.
I do too.
And now I look at some of the horses that I might have picked, and I look at some of his comments. Oh man, I'm not going to play that horse. I respect what he says.
Correct.
And when he puts a B+ or a B, I know that horse is doing tremendous. That horse is ready to fire.
Yep.
But you got to understand, people that buy that the workouts only count after the horse ran. How is he doing after that race? What he did before, forget that. He already ran. That workout doesn't count anymore.
Exactly.
I try to explain that to people.
Only the workouts since the last race.
In this race, I hate to say it, but I got the race 6-3. I couldn't get around it.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, you can only play with the cards that are dealt to you, right, Vince?
There's a few where I pick some other horses, but that's just what it is, Tom.
Well, you talked about going to Hollywood and being part of the nightlife. And, of course, you rub shoulders with a lot of the Hollywood celebrities. Telly Savalas, Jacqueline Klugman, Angie Dickinson, Burt Bacharach.
Yeah.
That was obviously a different era back then. There was no Uber. There was no Twitter. There was no nothing. A lot of those people that I just mentioned, those celebrities, actually did enjoy coming to the racetrack, unlike Frank Sinatra.
They all love coming to the racetrack. That was their second home. They loved the camaraderie, meeting other people there. They love the horse racing. How can you not love thoroughbred racing?
I agree.
When you come down in the paddock and see those horses blowing and they're ready to go, it's like a prize fighter. He's ready to fight. The horse will tell you that he wants to run. And the public has got to understand, those horses were bred. They love being thoroughbreds. They love to run. I've been around ponies. Ponies like to run off if they get the opportunity. But there's nothing greater than thoroughbred horse racing, not because I'm affiliated with it. I fell in love with the horses, and that's what the thing's all about.
I completely agree with you, Vince. My first time to the racetrack, I was 13 years old, and I went to Arlington Park. I didn't know anything about gambling. All I knew is that it was such a beautiful sport, the spectacle of it, the beauty of the horses, the green grass at Arlington Park, the jockey silks, and obviously the gambling part came in later. Let's see if we can pick a winner in race number 2. This time we're on the main track. 1 mile and 1/16 is the distance. Also, race 2 begins the 50-cent early pick 4. This is for $40,000 claimers. Small field of 5. John Sadler, fresh off the Eclipse Award win with Flightline, trains number 2, Impossible Task, who's the 6-5 favorite. Before we get your thoughts on the race, Vince, where do you kind of put Flightline in the list of all-time great horses that you've seen? You've seen a lot of great horses. Let me make it easy on you. Does he make the top 10? Does he fall somewhere in the top 20? Where does Flightline fall for you?
You know, I'm very good friends with John Sadler before he became a trainer. He was in the horse shows, jumping horses.
Yes, he was.
And when I became very good friends, to see John, he spent 2 years with Dr. Robbins to learn about how to take care of the horses. Eventually went up north, and he put his time in, and now he's become an outstanding. He's one of the great trainers in the game today. When I was in Del Mar, and so the flashlights around Flightline all the time, and he would bring him out. I was there the day Bob Baffert showed up, walked over with some owner, and they brought Flightline out. Bob wanted to see him, went over and touched him, and he wanted to see this horse. And I knew then he was some kind of special. So getting back, the greatest horses I've seen, every one of them, from my time, from the early 60s until now. And I saw Forgo, I saw Kelso, a spectacular bid, one after the other. Tom Fool.
John Henry,
all of them. To me, the greatest, he was 5 times horse of the year, was Kelso. Go 1.25 miles, 1.5 miles, carry 136, 137. I'm going to give you a fast story about that, then we'll go back to handicapping. And I'm in the house with our Carol, and the phone rang. And Willie Horn said, "Eddie, you got a phone call." Well, I don't know who's on the other end. I can't hear nothing. Eddie said, yeah. I'll let you know how good he is. What the hell was that? He said, "You're not going to know how good he is. I'm holding him back, trying to not put a pound on him. He's carrying 36 now." Oh, okay. They hung up the phone. He said, "Can you imagine Mrs. DuPont want me to let, she's the owner. You want me to let that horse run?" Oh, my God.
That's how good the horse was.
That's how good the horse was. So afterwards, I said to him, "You always tell me Citation's the greatest horse you ever rode." He said, "He was." Well, who's the next one? Kelso. That's all. He didn't even bat an eye.
And you can look up all of Kelso's victories on YouTube for those of you who don't remember that particular era, and myself included. But let's get back to the current era here, Vince. Who do you like in race number 2? Is it John's? Is it John's horse or someone else?
I was trying to find somebody to beat this horse, but the 5 horses he's got claimed for 20. I don't think he's in the category of these kind of horses, so I threw him out. Zumba Warrior, 16,000. I can't play him. So it came down to who's the only speed in the race. Impossible Task. So I picked him.
Fair.
I picked the race 2-3.
Fair enough. Let's take a look at race number 3, Vince. It begins today. The 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6, the jackpot single ticket carryover, now up to $287,000. A couple housekeeping notes about the Pick 6. Tomorrow, Saturday, we're going to have a $1 million guaranteed payout if you're the only winning ticket in the Santa Anita Rainbow Pick 6 sequence. And the card is actually very, very good. It sounds impossible, but I think there might be a chance that there could be an only ticket. So definitely take a look at the Pick 6 sequence. And if you're right and you're the only winning ticket, you'll get $1 million guaranteed regardless of pool size. And then on Sunday, 2 days from today, this coming Sunday, we're having a mandatory payout in the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. So therefore, if nobody has the only ticket tomorrow, then everything must go on Sunday. So definitely make sure you play the Pick 6 all 3 days this weekend here at the Great Race Place. Vince, we're sprinting 6 furlongs in the main track. Calbred, 3-year-old fillies, maiden special weights, a field of 6, 4-5. Favorite number 5, Bajan Bashert from the Mark Glatt barn. You know Mark Glatt very well. He does a good job around these parts.
I met Mark when he first came around. He used to be hanging around his dad, Ron Glatt.
Exactly
right. I knew Ron for a long time. He was a leading trainer up in Emerald Downs many years, and eventually came down, and that's when I met Mark. He was a young
Very
kid.
good horseman type of
He
family.
works hard, knows what he's doing.
And now they got their son doing a lot of the
And
heavy lifting as well.
His son's name is Ryan.
Yeah.
He's there every morning with his dad. He wants to be a trainer, and he was a pretty good athlete too in high school, but he decided he wants to be like his father.
What time do you get to the track in the morning, Vince?
Around 5:45. My routine is I go to bed at 8 and I'm up at 4. And it takes me maybe 20 minutes, half hour to get here.
You're 90 years young. And when I talked to Charlie Whittingham way back when, he said one of the secrets to the success of his life was getting up every morning and moving around. In other words, when you're on the backside, when you come to the front side, you're in constant motion from 5:45 until almost you go to bed at 8 o'clock at night. Do you think that's one of the reasons why you've led such a healthy life?
Yeah, the thing is somebody asked me the other day, what's your key to being 90? I said, I did everything wrong when I was younger. I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day, had 3 throat operations. When I woke up on the last one, the doctor said, you keep smoking, I'm going to cut your voice box out. And boom, the light went on 45 years ago. I said, I quit. It took me 3 months to quit, but I did it.
You might have lived to be 120 if you didn't smoke early on in your life.
Charlie Whittingham, I met Charlie when he was not Charlie Whittingham as we know him today. I was about 11 years old. He rented my uncle's house in Saratoga Springs, and he was assistant trainer for Horatio Luro.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew Charlie when I was a little young boy. So eventually he became one of the greatest trainers of all time, Charlie Whittingham.
He was a tough old Marine, wasn't he? He was no BS.
Oh, if he was drinking, watch out.
That's true for all of us. Who do you like in race 3, Vince, and why?
This is a grab bag here, Tom. Maybe one of those unknown quantities here. First-time starters.
Does our friend Andy Harrington have any insight in the race?
Andy Harrington, he likes of all the ones that are working, he likes the bottom horse, Indicia, who's got a B rating, and the other ones are not working so good. But you have nothing much to go by. The 4 horse got beat for 32,000, and the best buyer rating was the 5. So I'm going to say I would take 5-6 because maybe one of those long shots will hop up, maybe, but not according to Andy. So I listen to Andy Harrington.
Fair enough. Let's take a look at race number 4. Vince begins the 50-cent late pick 5 sequence. 6 furlongs in the turf course for fillies and mares. $32,000 is the claiming tag. Non-winners of 2 races. Lifetime is the condition. Scratch the 1 and the 7. Leaves us with a field of 6. Number 6, Big Beauty, once again from the John Sadler barn, is the 8-5 morning line favorite. How'd you see this race, Vince?
Oh, the one I had him second. I did have John Sadler's horse on top. I had a 6-1. John Sadler's horse has got 2 B pluses since his last run. So Andy likes the way he's going. He's going to be up close and maybe be on the lead. That's who I picked. But I don't know who to pick second now.
Vince,
I had the one.
Vince, you've been around the game a long time, and I don't know the restraints you might have as a jockey agent, but did you ever get involved in horse ownership? Did you ever own any thoroughbreds throughout your career?
No, I had one named after me. Alan Rossoff, his grandfather, put in the subway system in New York, and we became friends, and he owned some horses. And he said, Vince, I want to name a horse after you, please. Don't name a horse after me, please. I don't know anybody who's ever successful. He said, you got to sign this paper. I said, promise me. So I signed it. So he got training. He finally ran in Belmont Park. I'm sitting there, and here comes Vince DeGregory. My heart is pounding. I don't own the horse. I want to see him do good. He ran up the racetrack. Cut a long story short, he had to be shipped to Suffolk Downs to break his maiden for $5,000. I said, that's it. Don't name no more horses after me.
He certainly didn't represent his namesake, who certainly has all
That
class.
was it.
That's for sure. Race number 5 begins the 50-cent late pick 4. 6 furlongs in the main track. Starter optional claiming types, a field of 7. Number 1, American Cat from the Dean Pedersen barn, is the 9-5 morning line favorite. We could go up and down this jockey and trainer roster of names, and you know each and every person, you know, like the back of your hand. Who, you know, Barry Abrams comes to mind, bless his heart.
Buddy.
You guys, the lore had it that you guys went down to Rosarito and had like 60 lobsters one day on a dark day.
Yeah.
I mean, the camaraderie that you have.
We were so close, Barry and I. In fact, when I lived in Hollywood, his mother lived maybe 20 blocks from where I lived. And every now and then he'd say, Vince, I got some food. Would you drop by my mom's and put it on the porch? So I love doing it for Barry. I got to meet his mom, meet his father. And eventually they both died, and then Barry wound up with cancer.
Yeah,
never was a smoker.
unbelievable.
And he went through holy hell. Funny time, 2 days ago, I had a big dream about Barry, like I saw him right in front of me. and I couldn't understand why. And Octavio Vergara, who used to work for Barry, he asked me yesterday, he said, Vince, who died first, Mel Studi or Barry Abrams? I said, why would you bring up Barry Abrams? I just had a dream of Barry.
And then I bring him up today.
I said, Mel Studi died in August, Barry died in October. We lost two great people.
Those were the days of Clocker's Corner, right? Henry Marino was part of that club as well.
Henry's another great one.
Right.
I go way back to that part of my life, those people.
Good memories, that's for sure. Race number 5, Vince, we need a winner. Who's it going to be, American Cat or somebody else?
Well, I don't like horses coming out of the one hole.
Sprinting.
You're going to have to use them early to get off the rail. And I tried to find some speed in here, maybe to set it up for a come behind horse. And I'd love to see the 7 beat the 1, only because of Bill Spar. Bill's an old warrior. I remember him putting his time in for 2 years with Dr. Robbins before he became assistant trainer with Joe Manzi. And now lately he's had back problems, and he's here at 3 o'clock every morning, and he's not winning. So I think the 1 is going to be hard to beat. And if anybody, I'm rooting for the 7.
And the jockey Bill Spar utilizes in race 5, Mike Smith. I've heard of him. He's okay, isn't he, Vince?
Great rider.
What makes a great rider?
I say guys that are focused, they come here, they act like professionals. And if a guy asks them to work a horse the last minute, they don't come up with stories. Boom, they run right away to go do their job. They don't come there late. And I hate that with a rider. I tell the jocks, you're obligated to that trainer. And there might be an owner of his that you're going to ride for might be in the stands. And you get there late and he's got 2 other horses to go out. You're stopping everybody to get out on time. By the tractors get off, you only got so many minutes to work your horses. So don't come late. I can tell you a story about that another time. I jumped all over one jock. I thought he was going to cry. But he turned out to be some rider.
And I saw Tom Proctor lay into one jockey who will remain nameless in the paddock at Del Mar as well. Certainly old school guys like you and Tom don't mess around.
Tom and I go way back.
And be a professional, right? You might wind up in the Hall of Fame if you're being professional.
Jockeys must understand this is a business. You don't treat it as a game where you show up on your time. Your time is their time, not your time.
Very well put, Vince. Race number 6, we're back on the turf course. 1.1 miles is the distance. Fillies and mares, allowance optional claiming types. Non-winners of 2 other than Scratch Bill Spar's runner. Number 1 leaves us with a field of 7. Number 3, Ballet Dancing from the Simon Callahan barn. Ridden by Frankie Dettori is the 2-1 morning line favorite. Talking about world-class jockeys. Frankie Dettori, you remember when he was out here when nobody knew him. Now he's on top of the world.
I met Frankie when he first got here. Bob Meldo.
I know Bob, sure.
Took his book and I've become friends with Frankie, and he talks a lot of Italian. I talk Italian, not like him. In fact, the other jock from Italy is Rispoli. My grandparents came from Naples, Italy. He comes from Naples, Italy, and Rispoli. Sometimes, hey, Vincenzo, come sta buono, eh? He starts talking Italian to me because my dialect is the same as his, as the slang Italian.
It's like the good old boys. Well, Umberto doesn't have a mountain race number 6, but Frankie does. Who do you like in race 6 and why?
Well, I picked the 5 to beat the 3, and I'm only going to tell you, I know the 3 has got the qualification to win the race, but I have an old tendency. He's a 3-year-old when all of his record is when he was a 3-year-old. He is now a 4-year-old facing older horses.
For the first time.
The game gets a little rougher facing the old mares that went through the 3-year-old stage. So I only picked the 5 to beat the 3 for that particular reason. And the 5 ran a tremendous race the other day, coming from way out of it and kicked in the last quarter of a mile. And so I'm thinking if anybody is close to the 3 earlier, the 5 is going to run him down.
Race number 7 begins the $1 golden hour pick 4, linking our last 2 races here at San Anita with the last 2 races at Golden Gate. And race number 7 is 1 mile on the main track for Calbred, fillies and mares, allowance optional claiming types, non-winners of 1 other than. Tecumseh Caroline, the 2 is the 2-1 morning line favorite. Phil D'Amato could be in store for a big day. He learned his trade under Mike Mitchell. That's some good tutelage, Vince.
Mike Mitchell was my buddy. I met Mike when he was walking hots and being a groom for Farrell Jones. This goes way back.
Wow.
So Mike and I became very, very good friends. Tom Proctor did the same for his dad.
Willard.
Pat Proctor was there working. They all learned mucking stalls, walking hots the hard way. But getting back to being around those people, they all turned out to be outstanding trainers as they got older. And Mike Mitchell was my buddy, and I love Mike. He died too young.
Hard work, Vince, never hurt anybody. You're a true testimony to that, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. And I just love the game. I love the people. Horse racing, there's nothing like the racetrack people. They're hardworking people. They dedicate their lives to take care of those animals. Those horses are treated better than human beings, as far as I'm concerned. Come around the barn someday and watch how they're treated. They're pampered. Oh, my God. But they give their heart to you.
Completely agree with you, Vince. It's a rare sight that people can see if they get a chance to go on the backside.
No doubt.
Because it blows your mind in terms of how they treat the animals.
And the grooms, they live in the stalls. They're up and stay around them horses at night. They hear them thrashing. They run out of their room to take care of that horse. It might be in trouble. And that's the, how can I say, the love of the game for the little guy. He loved that horse like it was his own horse. You can't say nothing bad to a groom, the horse he's rubbing. You get into a fight.
Vince, give us a winner in race number 7. We're short on time, but who's it going to be?
In this race, I picked Andy gave him a B+ too. I picked the 1 to beat the 3 in this race. And then we go back with the 3. Beat 3-year-olds. Now turning against 4. So I picked the 1, and the 3 is 12-1.
Rose Harbor over Busker Alley. So says Vince DeGregory in race number 7. Vince, we're out of time. I'm just going to get your personal thoughts on race number 8 and run to the window. But we could spend hours here talking about it. It's been an absolute delight spending the last 40 minutes kind of rewinding the history books of thoroughbred racing and walking down memory lane. You're a true treasure to the sport. God bless you, and I hope we're able to celebrate your 91st birthday down at Del Mar in August.
I'll be there with you. Hopefully,
thank you so much, my friend. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for watching as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Next voice you'll hear be track announcer Frank Miramati updating us with any late program changes. Have fun, everybody, and good luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park. The track is fast and the turf firm. Rail on the turf is at 30 feet for today's 8-race card. Please keep in mind, first post tomorrow will be at 12 noon. Take note, tomorrow's first post will be at 12 noon. In the first race, there are no changes. Start of the early pick 5. No changes in race 2. The third is the start of the Rainbow Pick 6. There's $287,000 in the carryover. In the fourth, scratch number 1, Quick Like a Bunny. No high 5 wagering in race number 4. Also scratch number 7, Super Renee. The late pick 5 starts with the fourth, scratch 1 and 7. In the fifth, beginning of the late pick 4, we have no changes. Race 6, scratch number 1, Freedom Last. Race 6, take out the 1. In the seventh, start of the Golden Hour pick 4, no changes. And in the eighth, which begins the Golden Hour double, scratch the also eligibles 10 and 11. Enjoy your day at the Great Race Place. They'll be at the gate for the first in 26 minutes at 12:30.
We're ready for the start.